Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Wendell, and this is Lead Well MD, a podcast that explores how leaders can transform healthcare through emotionally intelligent, effective clinician leadership. Today, I'm joined by somebody whose story I think many of you will recognize, and we're exploring what becomes possible when clinicians choose to develop themselves intentionally. My guest is Dr. Ben Reinking. Is that the right pronunciation, I hope?
You've got it, yes.
All right. Who is a pediatric cardiologist at the University of Iowa. He's an educator and now a master's certified physician development coach with a thriving coaching practice and his own podcast, The Developing Doctor. So, Ben, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm really excited to be here and speak to you today.
Well, great. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. And what I want to explore today, and really from your lived experience is where I'm coming from, is how intentional development can expand a clinician's ability to do a lot of things, to lead, to influence systems, and really create meaningful impact that goes far beyond the bedside and lead a better life in general, a better, more fulfilled life. I mean, that is really what it's about. So I wanted just to start by hearing a little bit more about your journey, your full-time clinical practice, but how did you get to do what you're doing now, which is coaching other physicians to regain that sense of agency over their life?
Oh, gosh. So this might be a little bit of a longer answer.
Yeah, it's all good. Please.
I think to just start at the beginning, I went into medicine probably for the same reasons that everyone else does. Although on the day that I interviewed, I probably couldn't, for medical school, I probably couldn't have said it so succinctly, but I wanted to help others. I knew it was a hard path and I wanted to challenge myself and prove to myself and to others, I think that I could do it. And I did it to make a living. And so I think most physicians and healthcare providers and really anyone in any industry enters their jobs for probably relatively similar reasons, right? And I got through doing the hard thing by doing what I had been taught to do. So I put my head down, I had no problem pulling all-nighters to study. I went through residency before there was such a thing as work hour restrictions. So I started residency knowing that I'd work 36-hour shifts and be on call every third night, and that was just expected.
Wow.
The thing about that approach is you can do it, right? So especially when the horizon is short, we can all put our head down and gut it out and grind it out. And in fact, we're taught to do that, right? If you're in music, if you're in sports, if you're in a high achieving profession, that's how you get better is you put your head down and gut it out. And our body has the way to bounce back by doing that.
Yeah.
And so what I learned the hard way, I think, is that when the horizon is infinite, right? So when you, and I guess no one's horizon is infinite, but when you're off training and you get your first real job, so to speak,
right,
all of a sudden there's not a 1 month reset or a 1 year reset when your schedule changes or you rotate to something else. This is what you're doing like until you retire.
This is it. Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever thought about that before.
Right.
A couple things happened kind of at once in my life. Like I was about 10 years into my career, doing what I'd always done, just putting my head down, getting work done, and it worked. I was up for promotion to full professor. I had a small leadership position. I was leading our fellowship program at the time. And our clinical program fell apart for reasons kind of beyond lots of people's control, but the wheels fell off the cart. As a result of that, many of my colleagues left, so I had a lot more work to do. My support system left because I really liked my colleagues that left. That was one of the reasons I stayed in the job. And so my support system was gone.
Wow.
And then in my personal life, my parents, got sick. My mom was in a car accident and was injured. She's fine now, thankfully.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah.
My dad had a cancer diagnosis around the same time, also fine now. We built a home. So my immediate family decided that the community we're in, we're gonna put down roots and build a home. And so the solution that I think many physicians jump to when things get hardest, I could just do this somewhere else, was all of a sudden taken off the table. So I hit the wall, essentially.
Okay. Right. Well, what's interesting about that is on paper, anybody outside looking in would say he's thriving. He's in leadership positions, right? You've got those 10 years under your belt. You're doing very well in your profession, but comes a time, I think, when you realize, like you're saying, that just working harder is not the answer to this. So you have to think about something else. So when did you first, because I understand that the vast majority, I would say all of the physicians I've ever worked with are very achievement oriented, very success driven, which is important. I think that is the engine that kind of creates the ability for you to do what you do. But when did you first sense that success and sustainability were not the same thing for you?
Yeah. Um, Gosh, I don't know that there was an aha moment, but I
No.
think looking back, there were like some glimpses. So
Yeah.
the first is I stopped looking forward to going to work. And,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think sometimes we're anticipating things, we plan the next step and think about what we're doing. And I
Yeah.
just kind of thought about disappearing. Like, what if I
Right.
just didn't show up to work? Right. And
Right.
so, and
Yes.
would anyone notice for like a couple days if I just didn't get this done? And so all of a sudden that I want to make this better. I want to be better. That
Right.
drive kind of went away.
Right. 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 So it evolved over time and it just became present and apparent. Why do you think it's such a deeply ingrained reflex for physicians when things get difficult to just put their heads down and work harder? Is it the achievement factor, or what is it exactly that creates that in medicine?
Gosh, that's such a great question. And I don't know that I have, like, I don't know that there is one answer, but I do
Right.
think part of it is that we get to where we are because we're trained to achieve, right? So we're
Right.
so focused on the metric.
Yeah.
Um, I think the other is also the culture of probably modern medicine where we no longer have autonomy in our workplace. And
Mm.
so
Mm.
we are taught to be achievement oriented, but then we also have sort of become cogs in the machine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have less say in how things run on the day-to-day basis and are more there for production, right? And
Right. Right.
so but that's a little bit disenfranchising, I think, probably for people when things get hard.
So were you experiencing burnout at the time when this all kind of came to a head at a certain point?
Yeah, it was all the classic symptoms, right? So I
Mm.
had physical, emotional, and a mental exhaustion, and so I definitely had
Right.
burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I didn't recognize it at the time, right? I wouldn't have called it burnout at the time. I was like, oh, I'm just being lazy, or it's
Right.
it's it's not. There's nothing that I can control. It's nothing inside. It's all something else that's going on. And
Mhm.
so I didn't really notice what it was until I think someone pointed it out, and I started saying things out loud.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I just actually the one aha moment I had was that we had a patient incident where we had just a debrief. So one of the
Mhm.
fellows had a root canal on call, things didn't go as planned. So we always do these debriefs when things get rough clinically.
Sure.
In the session, the person leading the cope session that we call it, said, it's normal to feel tired. It's normal to not go to work the next day. It's normal to like not feel happy for a short period of time. But
Right.
if you feel that for weeks on end, like that's
Right.
not normal and you need to get help.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think because I was in a room for a debrief where I was open to listening to things
Right.
and I had had a moment to pause and listen, that was one of the comments that was made that was like, I am all of those things right now, and I can't remember when I didn't feel any of those things.
Right.
I probably need to do something different.
Yeah. Wow. And I looked at your background and I've listened to you a little bit, and I've read on your website a little bit about your story. And so you went into coaching at one point, right? You eventually worked with a coach and a mental health therapist, which you're pretty open about, which is great. And you said that, well, at least what I read is that the coaching really felt different from anything that you'd experienced in your training or any development. So what was it about it that made it so transformational for you?
Yeah, I think there were a couple things. So the first thing was I did all the things that you're supposed to do, right? So I went to the therapist, I tried medications,
Right, right.
took some time off. I did all of those things.
Yeah.
Therapy wasn't the right answer because there wasn't anything I could pinpoint in my past to say this is like one specific thing that caused this. There wasn't like an obvious trauma that I was reacting to, right?
Right. Right.
So, and
Yeah.
so I remember my therapist slash coach, it was the same
Mhm.
person. He said,
Yeah.
we're going to try something different and we're going to put on my coaching hat and look forward.
Okay.
And I'm a cardiologist. So cardiology is pretty concrete. And so I
Mm.
like things that are black and white and problems that I can see. And the
Yes.
first thing that she said to me was just walk into work and think of two things that you're grateful for, or three things that you're grateful for when you walk in the door. And
Right.
I know that I rolled my eyes and sighed. I mean, it wasn't like a magic wand, but she was right, right?
Right.
So
Right.
there's something about just a mindset and how you approach things that feels
Right.
so squishy, but it is so impactful. And so that was the start of the journey.
Yes. So tell me how you kind of created this coaching practice around this, right? And what I noticed is that you have a 3-stage way that you work with people. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, as you kind of alluded to, I think many physicians and healthcare providers experience burnout, but
Yeah.
I don't know that any of us probably, or many of us, acknowledge that it's burnout. And
No.
for some, that's kind of a triggering word almost. And
Sure.
so I think the first thing is just to identify, what is it that you want? What is it that that feels off, and why
Yeah.
is that? And usually it's kind of reconnecting. So it's identify, act, and reconnect, but
Yeah.
reconnecting with the parts of you that were present when you went into medical school in the first place.
Right.
Why did you get into medicine? What strengths did you have? What parts of you do you use to succeed? And then how can you reclaim those and create a life and a career that feels fulfilling and aligns more with that vision that you had when you were the starry-eyed
Mhm.
med student who was like, I'm going to go change the world.
Right. Right. And how have your clients responded to that?
Yeah, similar to what I did. I think when I first sat down with my coach, and she told me to practice some gratitude, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And so every single one has that initial like, what did I sign up for? This seems really cheesy. And usually
Yeah.
by about somewhere between, I don't know, session 4 and session, like halfway through, someone's like,
Yeah.
there's usually some aha moment like, oh, this does work.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
small little changes do actually make my life better. And
Yeah. Well, that's a question. What happened to you? What changed for you when you started doing more inward facing work?
yeah,
What changed for you?
yeah, yeah. One was I realized that I could say no, right? Which sounds silly, but
Mhm. That
you
is
know,
a, yeah.
I felt like to be successful and to have opportunities presented to me that I should say yes to everything,
Yeah.
that I was letting my colleagues down, letting my patients down if I didn't add on that extra patient, if I didn't sign up for the extra shift, if I, didn't agree to do a research project, that somehow I was failing if I didn't say yes.
Sure.
All it takes, I think anyone who's learned to say no has experienced this. You say no, and the first time you say no, it feels horrible. And then there's no reaction. Like someone's like, there's like, okay, it's no big deal. And so
Yeah.
it's just having that first experience that I think was helpful. So I learned to say no.
Okay.
I also sought out opportunities that aligned with what I liked. So I,
Okay.
although I'm fully employed, about
Yes.
60% of my time is clinical. So I have 10% that's protected in the College of Medicine, which is where I'm sitting right now. And
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
division director now. So I'm in a formal leadership position, which is protected. And so I found opportunities that protected my time a little bit, but allowed me to grow in different ways so that I didn't feel
Wow.
like I was stuck and just churning the wheel.
Right. 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 Did you see impacts on the way that you communicated or the way your relationships within your organization? Did that change for you?
Yeah, I ask a lot more questions. Rather than offering answers, I think I ask questions.
Tough one for a lot of docs. That's very
It's
hard.
so hard.
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think communication was a big thing that I worked on just in general. Although I'm sitting here on a podcast, I'm a relatively quiet person and I keep a
Yeah.
lot in. And so
Yeah.
learning how to communicate with people who communicate differently than I do was a big thing for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. One of the topics that I often talk about with leaders like you is this concept of just vulnerability. And it's so hard for people to know how to be, how to create that capacity in themselves because it's not a natural place for most clinicians that I know. It's kind of beaten out of you in training, don't
yeah,
show any weakness, don't show any vulnerability.
yes.
But also the recognition of how important it is for leaders to demonstrate some of that. Did that change for you over the course of your coaching work? And did you
Yeah.
get more comfortable with that, or is that still hard?
I mean, I would say things are still hard sometimes, but it's a continuous growth process, I guess. But
Yeah.
I have gotten more comfortable with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always been comfortable saying I don't know to my patients, right? That's something we're taught. It was harder to say I don't know to my colleagues or in a room. I guess showing that vulnerability a little bit.
Right. Right.
I've learned to do that a lot more openly with my colleagues and things like that.
Right. Right. And what do you notice when you do? Does it change anything? Does it change the energy or what you get back?
Usually it's funny because someone relaxes and says, "Oh, good," because I don't know either, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we move forward. So there's a lot of shared, like, "Oh, good, we can talk about this openly and figure this out." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love that actually. I really do. Have you built it into any of your leadership in the role that you're in now? Some of these things that you've been learning and growing in?
I think one of the things that I try to do, and I'm still not perfect at because I just want to solve things and fix things, right? But I think one of the things that I really try to do is when there's a challenge that comes up, I just say, hey, let's just name the challenge and what would you do to fix this, right?
Right.
Or we could
Right.
just make this work exactly how we wanted. What would you do?
Mhm.
I try to give everyone some agency and some buy-in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully I'm successful at that, like more than 50% of the time, right?
Yeah. But I always say to the people I teach, it's progress, not perfection, right?
Yes.
Which is also catching yourself in the act of doing it, kind of going, okay, next time I'm going to catch this
Yes.
before I do it. But no, it's so interesting. I do a leaders coach program, but that's one of the biggest, toughest things for people to learn how to do is to be able to not just dive into solutions because you're so used to being fixers, you're experts. That's what you need to be. And when you've got that clinical hat on, of course it's appropriate. When you put your leadership hat on, it's switching gears to become that more facilitative, step back. Not that you can't offer your own suggestions and thoughts and opinions, but maybe not first. Yeah. And letting people be empowered in that and come up with their own solutions. And also so they don't carry everything on your back, right? If you fix everything, you also carry everything.
Oh, so true.
If we look broader too, just from your perspective, what does this kind of interfacing work, this intentional development, what does it offer for physicians that focusing only on their technical mastery, their clinical expertise cannot? What do you think it gives them?
I do think I've said this a couple times, I think, but it does give a little bit of agency or control, right? So we can't always choose the situations that we're in. We can't fix the healthcare system. It's beyond all of our abilities to just look at kind of the system that none of us would design if we could start over and design. But it does surprisingly give some options within and in a difficult system to navigate, challenges and create opportunities in a way that I didn't recognize before.
Can you give me an illustration of that from your perspective? Yeah.
Gosh, let me just think of like one
Oh.
example that we're thinking of right now. So my team, I have all of these pediatric cardiologists that have lots of different subspecialties and skill
Mhm.
sets, and we're not capturing all of the work that they do, right?
Mhm.
So just because of how the billing system is set up, like I can't consult my colleague who has a specialty that I don't have because we're recognized as the same provider by insurance agencies.
I see.
So,
Okay. Okay.
but other institutions have figured out how to do this.
Mhm.
So the answer has always just been no, we can't build this way. We can't write notes this way. We can't do this. And
Mhm.
I think, we just sat down with our administrators and the team who also want us to thrive, right? They want the
Right.
system to thrive. They're on the
Right.
same side of the table, actually. So,
That's right.
so,
Yeah.
so, we just sat down and tried to name the problem. So, all
Mhm.
right, let's all just say, what is it that we're trying to fix? And kind of the approach that I named before, how would we make this work if we could?
Right. Right.
It's just that the care they need and the providers get the care they need. And we're
Mhm.
trying a new note writing system next week. So that 6 months ago was, you can't do this.
Fantastic. That is agency. I think it's amazing that you took the opportunity to say, do we have a shared understanding of what the actual problem is? Because I think a lot of times people, when they want to tackle these kinds of issues, skip that part, and they think they're all on the same page with what they
Yes.
actually think the problem is,
Yep.
which takes them down in different tangents and roads. But when you can just step back and say, okay, what is the problem, and do we all agree what that is? Then you can start from the place of alignment to solve it together. So it sounds like you did that well.
And I think before I would have done the usual physician thing where I barged in the room and said, this is the problem. This is what we're doing. Why
Right.
can't we do this?
Right.
And then gotten frustrated when they said no. Right. So
Exactly. Exactly. So what was the difference then when you had them in the room and you did come up with a shared definition of what the problem was? Was that helpful?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's so important to understand other people's perspectives, right? And so
Yeah.
I have a better understanding of what the technical limitations are and what taxonomy codes are and why we all can't bill a certain way. And
Right.
I gained knowledge in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you see everybody on the same side of the table, because a lot of people still have that perspective of that, the us and them, the tribal stuff that's goes on a lot. And I get that.
Yes.
And I think in a lot of ways it is the goals are the same. It's how they're communicated and talked about that causes issue. But I do believe that the majority of the goals are the same
I
between
agree.
administration
I agree.
and clinicians. So let me ask you this. So if you talk about your premise around developing doctors, we're talking about building, I think about it in terms of building human capacity, right? So building that, how do you see it? What are you trying to help these physicians do when you work with them and build capacity? What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think so. I'm a pediatrician first, and
Yes.
one of the things that's unique about pediatrics is we have this little patient in front of us, and our goal is to help them realize their potential.
Right.
Really, what that is about is development, right? You're helping this little person develop. And
Okay.
somewhere along the way, when we go through training and we become adults, we think that we're done developing, right? And
Right.
there's like some switch that goes off in all of our heads that says, I'm done, this is who I am.
Uh-huh.
And that is so false. And so
So,
I think my goal ultimately as a developing doctor is literally development, like
no.
helping people realize that no matter what stage of life they're in, you can
Right.
grow and change and
Yeah.
morph. And we have to turn that switch back on, and you can become someone else essentially, or the person you were supposed to be, maybe more.
Well, that's right. I think that we're all in that evolution, that journey throughout our life, and we continue to change and grow. But a lot of times, I think it is helping people gain that growth mindset and not seeing themselves in a very fixed way, right? And I think once they're able to get their arms around that, it's limitless, really, what they can continue to progress to do. I love seeing that transformation when people are able to move from that very fixed, kind of locked in perspective of themselves, and not just themselves, but the people around them too. Like they're just that way. That's all, that's it. That's
Yeah, yes,
gonna be.
yeah.
But, it just creates such space for potential that I think is really beautiful for people, no matter what. Yeah. So how do you think investing in building capacity, if we think about it on a systemic level, how does it change the dynamics of the teams, the systems? Where do we see the impacts if we do invest in this kind of work for people?
Uh, Gosh, I think it is. It's about local empowerment. I think, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
what
Tell me
what
more.
is maybe needed? There's this idea that things need to be fixed from the top down, and it
Yeah.
needs to be this major overhaul for the healthcare system, or pick any industry, right, for things to get better.
Well,
I think the reality is what I need in my pediatric cardiology clinic is very different than what someone needs in a family medicine clinic or in the operating room, and
yeah.
allowing people the space to recognize that they can impact change in
Mhm.
themselves and in their working environment, and then giving them the tools to do so, I think would just improve the delivery of care across the board.
How do you think it would improve it? Where do you think you'd see those impacts more specifically?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think ultimately when we talk about impacts in healthcare, right, we're talking about patients, right?
Mhm.
So I think one would be access to care. So I think an
Mhm.
easy lever for many people to pull is looking at clinic templates, right? So
Right.
so many places have very rigid clinic templates, 8 to noon and 1 to 5.
Right.
And that's hard for let's say two physician families who have
Mhm.
kids to pick up after school,
Yeah.
who want to see patients, who want to get their work done, who want to make things work, to fit into that mold. And if you can't fit that clinic template, suddenly you're deficient in what you're doing, and
Right.
it creates frustration. Well,
Right.
allowing people the chance to modify their clinic schedule in a way that they reach the target metric, but they do it
Right.
in a different way
Right.
is like a very concrete example that I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Creating space for that.
Yeah.
Well, I think about it too, the way that, I mean, my whole thing is about human development and making things better in healthcare. And I think about these kind of four issues that come up time and time and time again. It's the whole retention issue, turnover, dissatisfaction, workforce crisis issue that's going on right now. There's the team performance that to me has everything to do with how well people function together. And that just has so many downstream effects, care delivery, but also just operational inefficiencies and things and broken handoffs and a myriad of different things that can come from teams not working well together. So I feel very passionate about helping people do that because it does have such a huge impact. But also things like getting people on board with change, trying to, right? Because that's
Mhm.
not easy, but as we know, but helping people build their capacity to be able to have better conversations and to feel more empowered to speak up when things are not right or they're not bought in because they don't know the why, those kinds of things, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then this whole idea of alignment between administration and clinician leaders and clinicians themselves, and are we on the same team or are we not? And trying to build the bridge between them to help things get better. What are your thoughts? Does that resonate, that this is where this kind of building of capacity and human development meets? What do you think?
Absolutely. I love the reference to handoffs too, actually, and kind of working on a team. So I think
Yeah.
that is probably maybe the biggest impact, or one of the
Oh,
biggest
yeah.
impacts that we get.
Oh, yeah.
We do think about the patient's experience in the healthcare system.
Yeah.
We need to prioritize the provider and team's experience in the healthcare system as well. And sometimes that
Yes.
gets lost.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It does, certainly. I think, there's so many places that it shows up. I just think about moving patients from the ED up to admitting and all that. That interchange right there, that's another tough one. So if you have teams that are functional and high performing and they communicate well, that process is so much easier and so much better. So what do you think if institutions were to invest earlier in coaching and development for folks, not as remediation, because unfortunately that's what coaching was always looked at, right? That
Yes,
you
yes.
do something wrong, so you get a coach. But if they were to invest earlier, even in training, I mean, what do you think would be different in 10 years?
Oh, wow. I mean, I could see where just the dynamic of the healthcare team would be very different, right? And so one of the things I guess that popped into my head that we haven't really talked about is emotional intelligence and regulating your emotions under high stress situations.
Yeah.
Just thinking about the experience of a medical student and trainee where they're in a very high stress situation and frequently can't express their emotions. And so don't learn that very important team skill.
Yes.
And then unfortunately, then when they're out of training,
Yeah.
things boil over. And so even just something simple like that, recognizing your emotions, regulating them, helping your team regulate their emotions would be huge.
It would be. It is huge. Yeah. And I would say it's not simple. It's a very, it's a simple concept and a very challenging
So hard.
process, right? I mean,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
first you have to even just be able to identify
Yeah.
what am I feeling in the moment. And there was actually a study that came out, I remember, big study, but only 36% of people can accurately identify what they're feeling in any given moment. So what that makes you think about is the fact that 2/3 of us are kind of wandering around, just, being affected by our triggers and not really recognizing where we are, right?
Yeah.
No, it's, but once we start that process, even just thinking about it starts the awareness process. So yeah, imagine if we had, if we built that capability earlier and positive impact that could have. Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of just like retention and outcomes, the environment, I think it would be a very impactful change.
Yeah. And does any of that feed into the coaching work that you do with your physician clients?
Yeah, so that's two big things that we focus on in the middle of the coaching is usually communication, like how do we communicate, how do others communicate, how do we flex to that, and then
Right.
a lot of emotional awareness because it is something where physicians, healthcare providers aren't supposed to feel, right? We're supposed to shut off, but we're humans, we do, and we need to learn how to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I think it's certain skills, certain skill sets that I think that you guys were actually trained the opposite of.
Yes, yes,
Right? You
yeah,
think about it, right?
absolutely,
Like
yeah.
trust, for example, right? How often were they saying, trust the nurse exactly, that took the blood pressure, do you know for sure? That kind of thing. Like I hear that a lot. So it's something that, I don't know, you tell me. I mean, obviously you're the one who went through the training, but is that kind of an accurate thing that it is trained out of you?
It is, yeah, yeah. Yes, it is. That was it the superhero mindset where I have to do it all and I have to do it all perfectly and all by myself, sort of.
That's right. That's right. So is that something that you help your clients work past, that superhero mindset?
Yes, yeah. It's hard. So it's
Yeah.
hard, and I don't know that anyone can completely let go of it, but
Yeah.
it is something that we definitely we all work on.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandable. Well, so let me ask you this. If we have somebody listening who is feeling maybe burned out, maybe disenfranchised or just not feeling any joy or fulfillment in the work that they're doing, kind of like where you were when you had your head down. What would you offer them, or what invitation would you extend to them to help them?
There's a better way, right? So it doesn't have to be like this. You can do hard things.
Yeah.
Love it, right? Just because you chose this hard path, it does not mean that you need to be miserable and just feel drained all the time. You can enjoy the challenge and grow. And there are multiple paths forward. It's finding the right one for them.
Right. I like that. Yeah, there are options. I think when people get burned out, they feel stuck, kind of trapped.
Yes.
And I think lifting the veil of that and saying, yeah, there are other places, right? You're not trapped. Right.
And there's more than one way to use your clinical knowledge and skill set.
Yeah.
Most of us stay in clinical medicine, but there are lots of pathways to use what you know and grow. And
that's true. Yeah. Helping people see that. Well, there was a book some years ago called "Do You Feel That You Wasted All That Training?" And I remember it was written by a physician, but he had gone into a non-clinical career and was coaching other physicians how to do the same if that was what they wanted to do, like an entirely entrepreneurial, non-clinical career. But I love the title because that's true. I mean, I think that's a little bit of the hook, isn't it? And a little bit of the trap is you've spent so much time getting to where you are. So that's a difficult thing, but the view that there are opportunities or are things, I think, can be very freeing, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That stuck feeling, right?
Right? Exactly. Yeah. That stuck feeling is no good. What's one piece of advice you would give your younger self if you could go back 20 years? What would you say to him?
Oh, don't roll your eyes at all the squishy lectures. Of course.
Yes. Tell me more.
Actually pay attention in those lectures.
Yeah.
Listen to the lecturer talks about self-care and the importance of taking time off. And
right.
Because that's for honest, those are the most important things that I learned that I did not pay attention to. Yeah.
That's right. And they really hit you hard in that, 10-year mark, right?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Like mid-career, I hear you. So if you could suggest, this is my last question for you. So if you could suggest one thing that a physician listening could do, a practice, a conversation, a boundary they could set that they could implement right away, that they would start developing themselves more intentionally, what would you think it should be?
Oh gosh, so many ways to go with that one.
I know.
I think probably a good starting point is to sit down and think at your retirement party, right? So at the end of your career and your family's there, your colleagues are there. What one adjective do you want people to use to describe you? And then are you on the path that gets you to that point, right?
Right. I love that, actually. I love looking at it from the future point because it boils it down, doesn't it? So may I ask what your adjective is?
Oh, gosh. I think I would say maybe generous.
Yeah. Well, I think you're on your way with what you're doing, obviously. It's tremendous work. So I want to say thank you for having this open and very candid and very vulnerable conversation with me and just sharing your thoughts. I really do appreciate you being here and sharing your lived experience. I think it'll help people.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, thanks for giving the platform. It's important that we share these stories and have the opportunity to express them. So thank you for allowing me to.
You're very welcome. All right. Take care.
Yes.
Lead Well MD is produced by Ashley Wendell and Physician Leader Group. Get new episodes as soon as they're published by following Lead Well MD on your favorite podcast app. And don't forget to share with your colleagues and spread the word.